I'm doing a pop-up Facebook Live with Lori Mitchell, Lori with a Y Mitchell. Lori is a Bulldog expert. She is actually a holistic health coach, certified holistic health coach. She is a natural rearing Bulldog breeder. She is a canine nutritionist. And there was one more thing.
Animal aromatherapist.
Animal aromatherapist with Dr. Janet Rourke.
Yep,
Right on. She is a personal friend of mine.
she's awesome.
She is awesome. And we wanted to talk about English Bulldogs. So English Bulldogs salute. Woo, woo. And the reason why we want to talk about English Bulldogs is a couple different things. Is I personally adore the breed. Um, and Shar says, "Hey, Lori." So,
Hi.
so you have some fans in Facebook land. Um, And unfortunately, my dog died this year and it could have been prevented. Um, the necropsy came back, according to UC Davis, could not rule out heat stroke. And the boarding facility didn't recognize the stages or the symptoms of it. And so I just want to scream it from the rooftops is if you are a pet professional, learn first aid. Learn first aid because nobody took my dog's temperature. Nobody tried to cool him off because it was an ambient temperature of 72 degrees in the boarding facility. So the boarding facility owner said, "There's no way your dog could have heat stroked at my house because it was cool." But she didn't know, even though she is a board and trained facility, she didn't realize that bulldogs can stress induce heat stroke. And my dog was technically healthy, according to UC Davis. He had a lot of acute issues from the crash of what killed him, but he didn't have any cancer or anything like that. And he was 7 turning 8, he would have turned 8 last month. And so he was actually really vital. He had had some health issues and he came to me on a vegan kibble diet. And he was given to the girl who gave him to me because he had some genetic abnormalities. And that is often the case with bulldogs. Like a lot of people think they're cute and Hollywood idolizes them in some movies. They're always in cartoons. You know, you always see the happy, gruff bulldog cartoon character, and we all fall in love with that, but you don't actually know what you're getting if you don't do your research. So, Lori and I met at Dr. Judy Morgan's and actually at a Kobe steakhouse. And I was like, wait, I need to talk to you. And I didn't really have the dog to talk to her then. So I wanted to jump her on live. She's been on my heart actually since the passing of my dog. I just really wanted to talk to you about building awareness because even though people are boarding or training or grooming, they may not understand the brachy breeds. So Lori, what do you see? I know you talk awareness and you actually have a rescue, right?
I don't have a rescue. I do. I have the holistic bulldog. So I have a business where I am trying to put awareness out to parents and empower them and teach them, help them learn how to take care of the breed in a way that's not similar to maybe how you would care for other dogs because they have some quirks of their own, but by using things like fresh foods, animal aromatherapies, natural herbs, things of that nature, especially for their skin, wrinkles, things of that like that. I just really got tired of going into the bulldog groups and hearing them talk about, I have a 6-month-old puppy and it's gotten I don't know how many ear infections and the vet wants me to go on Apoquel. What do you guys think? And everybody's like, yeah, it's the best thing I've done for my dog, or Cytopoint. And it's like, they're babies. Number one, even if they're not, it's just there's simple things you can do. Look for the root cause, see what's happening. Let's change that, and let's not over medicate them or do things like amputating their tails because they're getting a tail pocket infection. I mean, there's just a lot of things that, I've seen happening to this breed that it kills me, or people wanting really heavy, overdone. Yes, you're going to get ligament issues. You're going to get joint problems. You're going to get arthritis on a dog that has very short limbs with a very heavy barrel chested body if you're keeping them overweight. And they're cute, but that's not healthy.
Yeah, that is true. Everybody would ask me what my bulldog was, and I'm like, he's an English bulldog. And they're like, and I'm like, and he's fit. Because they thought he was crossed on a boxer or something.
Yep.
Because they were expecting this obese, panting, non-athletic dog. In fact, I had an equine first aid course taught at my house, and the girl also teaches canine first aid. So she goes around the Northwest teaching first aid for horses. And she met Harley, and Harley chased her car because he loves to chase cars, and it's very scary and very dangerous. And she was like, your bulldog's so fast. I've never seen a bulldog that fast in my whole life. I'm like, I think if we gave the breed the right feed, they all would be highly athletic. It's like the Tillman dog who put kind of bulldogs on the map, the skateboarding dog.
Yep.
Like that dog was super athletic.
And I think there was one that won a couple of years ago, the obstacle course for AKC. And
Really?
they can be very athletic, and they can have good stamina if well taken care of. And when you mentioned like CPR, even the CPR for bulldogs is different. So giving CPR to a barrel-chested dog is very different than giving CPR to a different, a normal-chested dog. So you'd have to find someone that can teach CPR, as well for barrel-chested, especially if you're a professional, you're going to deal with different breeds. You want to make sure you've learned all the different CPR techniques that you need to know for the different breeds.
Lori, I didn't know that. I am a certified CPR person for dogs, and that was never discussed in our class. We just had stuffed dogs to practice on. We didn't have a breed specific, and I really think that's important because the brachycephalic breeds do breathe differently. Their faces, to see an x-ray of their skull is so
amazing,
trippy. Right? Yeah, you're just like, what? They're almost human-like in a weird way. And I think they think they're human-like.
I swear some of them are human. I mean, I don't know. I've got 10 of them, and I can tell you that there's a few that they think they are more human. Like, I think you mentioned that they look at the other dogs like, you're just a dog and I am a baby. I am my mom's human.
Yeah.
So yeah, they definitely do.
That was my dog too. He was so offended about being with other dogs. He wanted to be with humans. And that was probably part of his demise, unfortunately, is he hated being boarded. I had boarded him at 3 different facilities, and the very best facility I ever boarded at was Carrie Hyde at the spa in Orange County. And so if you guys know Carrie, she has the Thriving Pet Expo. She has podcasts, or it's an older podcast. She just wrote a play that is incredible about veterinarian care and animals and the evolution and the high suicide rate of veterinary care. And it's very intense. It's actually with real actors on a real stage, and it's been produced and it's been acted out. It's amazing. And so she got my dog. She understood him. She tried to treat him like a dog and put him in a kennel, and he barked and he was stressed. And she put him in the office. He sat in a chair and sat there until the weekend was over, and just sent me pictures. And here he was, quiet in his man chair. And oh,
That's what it is. Yeah.
yeah,
I
he
say,
had to have the guy look. He had to be
yeah,
covered as a dude.
yeah. I
Absolutely.
say that my house belongs to my dogs. I just pay the mortgage. So
You're
because
the staff. That's all you are.
yeah, that's
How,
it. And
how do
they'll
you afford 10 bulldogs? Because I would love 10 bulldogs, and but I can't handle 10 bulldogs.
well, I do cook for them and feed raw, so it depends. I Some of them will do better on raw, some will do better on cooked, especially the older ones. But I try to find deals. I they Luckily, because they've been fed the way they're fed and they haven't been over medicated, I don't really do a lot of vet visits. I do have one who about almost 2 years ago was diagnosed with having some kidney issues. He's the only one, he's my first, so he was on kibble for the longest. Most of my other younger ones were raised here, so they've been raised on raw from the day they were weaned off mom. But he's the only one that has, that kind of medical issue. And I've kept him, he's still thriving. The vet keeps asking me, he's still not showing any signs. He's still, because his blood work looks like he's, farther in that what his symptoms are. And I'm like, he eats and he'll want to eat all day. He trots around the yard. He doesn't know he's sick. And I
Right.
attribute a lot of that to the fact that he's been on fresh foods for so long. And so besides that, those vet visits, I keep it pretty, they don't really get a lot of need for that, except for that one yearly. And we're good. We get the checkup and that's it.
That's amazing. So I laugh because the bulldog groups make fun of like they're farting, and my bulldogs have never been farters. And
Mm-mm.
the drool, and my dogs have never been droolers except for right before feeding, salivary. Like they know the bowl sits there and they're all in, like it just starts hanging out. But once they've ate, they're not droolers throughout the day unless they're sick to their stomach.
Right.
So I always wonder when people are like, yeah, my bulldog drools a lot. I'm like, check the stomach.
Yep.
Because,
Well, everything really starts there, even for us, right?
yeah.
So it's just it's cute and it's funny to say, oh, they're farters, they're snorters, that's the cute quirkiness of them. But in reality, they don't have to be. So again, mine aren't either. And if they do, I'm like, okay, something's going on. What did I feed them? Did they get something different today? It's typically a one-off. Um, they're not really snorers or snorters. And that has a lot to do also with breeding, and trying to avoid the elongated palate. But it happens because unfortunately their heads are smaller, like you said, when you look at that X-ray. But the palate is the same palate that's in a German Shepherd or that's in a Labrador, and it's just in a smaller space. So all of them will have some degree of elongated palate, just some will be longer than others. And
Thank you for bringing that up because my first bulldog was an American bulldog, and he had mild apnea, which was terrifying. Like I'd have to wake up in the middle of the night, make sure he's breathing, shake him awake. But when he finally went towards raw, because he was a kibble fed dog, this is back before we were all screaming, kibble, he
right.
chronic pancreatitis. So yeah, once I got him managed better, I think that went away. And then Harley came to me with a little apnea, but he was on a vegan kibble. They put him on a vegan kibble because the doctor said he had too much protein in his urine. And so that's why they did it. But the dog didn't drink. He never went to the water bowl. He never drank. And so I called the previous owner. I was like, have you ever seen your dog go to the water bowl? Because I have not seen this dog go to the water bowl. She goes, oh, he drank out of the pool. And I was like, excuse me, like no wonder he had a like a little urinary issue, and he didn't have a urinary issue. He was dehydrated.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, I've actually, and when they're on raw, they're drinking even less, right? I mean, out
Right.
of the water bowl, but their food is moist. And there's a lot of more moisture in the food than in the kibble. So people don't realize that. And like even people that I've helped transition to raw, they're like, oh, but my dog isn't drinking. And I'm like, it's okay because they're getting it now in their food. And you can always pour some, on their food, or you can give them a little bone broth or whatever, and that will help. But yeah, a lot of people don't realize that some of these issues that they're having are just something as, and I don't want to say simple, because yes, you do have to do some legwork to figure it out, but it's just back to the gut and back to their microbiome. And I think I don't think there's a study out there, but I'd be interested to find out if a lot of what their issues come from have to do with the fact that most of them are C-section puppies, just like
Oh,
Frenchies.
oh,
And the
that's
fact
so
that they don't
fascinating.
pass through the microbiome of the mother's, canal. So they're doing things now where they're like swabbing the canals and trying to get that into the puppies. I haven't tried it myself, but that makes sense because their skin microbiome is different. Their you have skin microbiome as well. So their gut microbiome, their skin microbiome, and they're not going through the normal birthing process that most dogs are. They're
I
being
wonder if
C-section.
that's part of their breathing problem
I think the
too.
breathing problem is really just the structural, head. And I think until we don't breed enough of them with the shorter palates, it's gonna. And again, it could skip generations. I have one that I don't breed him because I know that his palate is more elongated than the rest of my dogs. I
Good
can
for
hear
you.
he's the only one that snores. And I think he has some apnea as well. He though has had seizures, and it's always sleeping. So I think that's where his apnea comes into play. But he's fresh food fed. But he didn't. I didn't breed him here. I didn't. I bought him, and he came, on kibble and all the other stuff. So you know, is it not? I don't know, but I definitely think there's a way, but the shorter snout we want, the smushier the face we want, the heavier the dog, the more issues you're going to have with things like apneas and breathing
Hip
and all that other stuff.
dysplasia, arthritis,
Yeah.
all those structural deformities. So my
The
dog,
shorter, like,
because
I don't know if you've seen, they're trying to make them shorter and short, like they call them minis,
I
and
have
they've got
seen
like
them,
the real bow-legged legs, and like their bodies are very top heavy. So the shorter their legs are,
their
the
but their
more
heads are still as big.
as big, the more weight is being put on the same little legs.
Well, and they don't swim well. So if they
It'll float.
drop in a pool, they hit the ground really fast. Yeah, it's super scary.
Yeah.
That happened to us. And um he came out of it great. He was partially blind in one eye from neurogenic KCS. So you get the entropion issues. So I tell everybody if you want a bulldog, plan on a trust fund because you're going to spend a lot of money in maintenance or a lot of money in
Right.
vet bills.
It's either one or the other, correct.
Yeah, you are in it for a lot of money, one way or another. I really feel like the mismanagement, they die too soon. And a lot of people don't know what they're getting into. So you see I get tons of my friends throwing me rescue shelter ads. Here's a bulldog, mange everywhere, just a mess. And they're like, go rescue it. I'm like, I don't know. And I would love to go rescue it. I would love to rescue all of
All
them.
of them.
Yeah. I'm like, they're
Well,
all
that's
beautiful.
like when people say that, they're like, oh, there's a lot of them in rescue. And if you look at them, the majority of them are having some type of skin issue.
Yep.
And I mean, if you compare a dog that's having skin issue, like if I was going to rescue, right? Do I want a dog that's having skin issues or a dog that has a heart issue? The skin issue is manageable. You just have to find the right food for that dog, maybe do a sensitivity test or something and see and that's a whole other conversation because people like to talk about it as allergies, and they're not allergies. They're sensitivities, they're intolerances that they can eventually, kick and start eating
What's
again.
the difference, Lori? Because
So
I definitely did a glacier peak with mine several times, and I
Yeah.
did the muscle test. So I would muscle test my dog's food, and he did come with full ear infections, partially blind in one eye, limping, and he was 3 years old. Like he was a pretty
a mess.
big train wreck, but it was not life threatening.
Right.
It was all management. And so I was really, really proactive, did all the sensitivity testings, did a microbiome transfer, did ozone, did acupuncture, PEMF, did what else? I don't know, anything I could think of. I sang to him, whatever helped.
Well, the difference is, so when you think of an allergy, think of like if you have a peanut allergy, if you're around the peanuts, you're going to have an immediate
Anaphylaxis.
bad reaction. What they have is what we call an insensitivity, intolerance, or a sensitivity, and it comes from leaky gut mostly. So what happens is the stomach lining, the microbiome in the stomach, they're very tight tissues. And when they've had, a lot of times it's antibiotics because that will mess, even think about it with us. Why do they tell you take food with the antibiotic? Because it does mess with your microbiome in your stomach. Sometimes people get sick, right? Diarrhea, they have vomiting. So it's the same thing. And then what happens is those tissues kind of separate. And then when they eat, and now you're feeding the same thing to this dog all the time, especially kibble-fed dogs, they're having the same kibble every day, every day, every day. That gets through the microbiome and it goes into their bloodstream. And their body's like, whoa, this doesn't belong here. And so it tries to detox. And that's where it starts coming out in the ears, in the skin, in the folds, whatever wherever it can kind of, rid the toxins that it feels are attacking it. But it's because of the leaky gut. And then when you start switching proteins, now the gut's like, okay, well, this is, the body's like, this is not the same thing. This is not new. And then you start healing the gut as you're doing that. And that's why a lot of times, especially when you're feeding fresh foods, you'll hear people say, rotate proteins, keep that gut constantly fresh, and then you can go back to the intolerances. I always heard they can't eat chicken. Bulldogs cannot eat chicken. They're allergic to chicken. Chicken's horrible for bulldogs. My dogs eat chicken.
Really? None of mine can. None. But I hate chicken too. So oddly, the last glacier peak I did on my dog was identical to my sensitivity. So I actually asked Dr. Margot Roman, I was like, do you think that our like sleeping in bed and me hugging him all the time, that I'm sure my microbiome and he's matching that? And she goes, absolutely.
Yep. And it'll change too, right? So you can do a glacier peaks today and have these things, show up as your insensitivity. And then you can do it a year from now.
Or 6 months, and it's totally
different. Right. And it's the same with the dogs, which is why I'm saying there's a lot of foods that your dog may be having a reaction to now that if you fix their microbiome and by removing those foods for a while, feeding something different, and then you can reintroduce them and they'll be able to eat it. And that means it wasn't an allergy because guess what? Now they tolerate it. It was an intolerance.
Right. And so intolerance is often similar to a toxicity. Like they eat it over and over and over. And then it builds up. Yeah. And my dog, we busted the ear infection thing. When I got everything right, he had no more ear infections.
And that's what it is. Like Chewy came to me, it was ear infection. Then he got an infection in the 11, I call it the 11, the fold right on their head. And he had hot spots all the time. He had interdigital cysts. He had a tail pocket infection. It was just one infection after another infection after another infection. It seemed like I was constantly on antibiotics. And I didn't give him chicken. I wasn't giving him beef. He was on salmon kibble. So I'm like, it's not the food. That's what I was like. It's not the food because he's on salmon. He's like, nobody's allergic to fish. And it wasn't until the vet said to me, the only thing left for me to give him is Apoquel. And I said, oh my God, this is going to be every month for the rest of his life. I said, first of all, I don't want to pay for that every month. And secondly, like it has to have a side effect, right? So I said, let me do some research. And I went off and I started following Mayor Tyson, who I love. And
Who's that?
she has a huge backstory about her dog, Mayor Tyson. Her name is Nicole. And she just, she's gone and made awareness and has helped a bunch of pet parents, of bulldog parents, go into fresh food feeding. And her dog was on Apoquel for years. He ended up with a bunch of organ failure problems. He ended up with calcifications on his skin. And she finally, I mean, she had a binder probably about this thick with just medical stuff. And she finally said one day, enough is enough. I'm done. Pulled him off everything, started him on fresh foods, started doing things like activated charcoal masks for his skin and things like that. And
I love that. I tell everybody to do
yep,
activated charcoal topically. All
and
those flea and tick med people,
yep, and
activated charcoal,
he
suck
turned
it.
around. I mean, he was too far gone. Unfortunately, he ended up passing,
Oh,
but his skin got better. His hair started growing back. He got a little more pep back in his step. It was just so many years of the Apoquels and the medications and the antibiotics that it just, she couldn't save him, but she gave him a better end of life. And her story was just so inspiring. And I said, I'm not going down this path with Chewy. And that's what started me down the, okay, let's figure out fresh foods. Let's figure out. And by then I had three. So I was like, okay, we're going to switch you all. He's never had an ear infection again, a hot spot, an interdigital cyst, a tail pocket, nothing. And when I tell you this was like every month I was at the vet, every month was something. And that was just what inspired me to say, we got to stop. We got to stop.
amazing. That's so awesome. And it's so encouraging. And so I just wanted to spread awareness today, you guys. If you are pet parents, if you do love those brachy breeds, if you are a groomer or a trainer or a boarding facility, bulldogs are different. They're
And
special and they're beautiful. And I always like to own a dog that has more wrinkles than me.
yeah, right.
It makes me look younger.
With the heat, like even with the heat stroke, they
It's stress induced at
it's
that
stress
point.
induced,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be the temperature in the room. So that's just so important for people to know because, like you said, people assume, oh, they're indoors, they're in my house, they're not going to get heat stroke. But that's not true. Even at the vet's office, if going to the vet is stressful for them, that can induce, obviously, they're there, so that's going to be a little bit better. But be prepared, like have an emergency kit, I call it. And I know you have a homeopathy,
Yeah.
remedy for that. I use rubbing alcohol and I just put it on their paws and on their belly, and that will cool down their bodies pretty quickly.
But you like when I noticed my dog stressing on the video 24 hours before and was told he's just groggy, she made no effort to just do vitals or take his temperature. Yeah. And she's a professional. Like I expected some action to be like, hey, let's rule it out. Owner knows best. Like, and I'm a pet advocate. Like I give wisdom as an animal naturopath. Like, wouldn't I know my dog? So take their temperature. Like let's get baseline. Let's see where they're at. Let's see if it's even heat stroke, because it could be something else, like they hurt their back or something else. Some, bulldogs do crazy things, foreign body in the gut, something weird. So rule it out, take their temperature, check off the boxes. And then
Mhm.
for me, I never hiked without stramonium or some other homeopathic remedy in my pocket. But stramonium was the rock star for just like you're hiking, it's a cool day, sunlight got hot, you're a mile away from the car and you're in trouble, you know?
Oh,
And so stramonium, just put it in their mouth, hang out, get some cool water, not cold, not cold, you guys.
I
Cool.
was going to say that.
Yeah. And just,
Don't like throw water on them either, or put them under like a hose or something, because then you're shocking their body into a totally different. Then you have a totally different problem you're going to have there.
yeah, stramonium has saved both my bulldogs' lives in stressful conditions, heat stroke conditions, potential for like just hiking and sunlight turned hot, or the car got thinking my when I was married, my husband had my bulldog in the car and he thought it was plenty cool enough to leave him in the car, and it wasn't one bit. And he was like, oh my gosh, I almost killed your dog. And so we just did the stramonium and pulled him right out of it. And so yeah.
Yeah. And if you hear them having a hard time breathing, a squirt of lemon juice right into the throat breaks up all that phlegm, and they'll
So
just
when
right
they're
out.
like
Yeah. When it, like you can hear that there's like phlegm in their throat, kind of like when you have a frog in your throat and it's like there's something there.
and you
Just,
do it in the mouth directly.
yeah, I just open their mouth and just squirt it right in. I get the little bottles and squirt it as far back into their throat as you can. And typically they'll just end up coughing and they'll just cough up all that phlegm. And now they can breathe again.
Don't get it in the eyes.
No, that's why I get the little bottle with the thing and I just stick it in their mouth. Or if you got, if you have like a syringe, if you're at home and
Now
you have,
you're an aromatherapist, so would you use like I have lemon doTERRA?
I wouldn't use the essential oil because that
Too
has to be
strong.
diluted. It's the lemon juice. There's something in the juice that will break up the phlegm, and that's what they end up getting because they're panting and panting. They're not effective at panting like other dogs to lower their body temperature. So as they pant and pant and pant, they're building up phlegm in their throats. At the same time, their throat starts closing from the stress. It starts getting inflamed and inflammation kicks in. So you want that juice will just throw out all that phlegm, and then they can breathe better.
So Lori, is that the esophagus that gets damaged or the larynx?
I think it's that tracheal area right back here. And
Okay.
so that phlegm comes kind of like what we get like postnasal drip, and it just kind of builds in there, and you just want to get them to get it out, and that because it'll come out it's like a ball of phlegm. And
Wow. I had
that's
no idea.
yeah, and and they'll stop breathe. They can't breathe. They just can't. They can't breathe through their nose, and then they're trying to open their mouth, but there's something obstructing. So that's an easy, quick way to just throw that in there and break up the phlegm that's in their throat, and that will help a lot for them when they're having any kind of like anxiety, any kind of, even if they're not in full heat stroke, but if you just try seeing that they're having trouble breathing and they're over panting, that's always a good way to go.
Yeah. And if you are a brachy lover like we are, if you see the slightest signs, you can be proactive. Like you don't, I mean, it happens fast. So for me, Harley and I love to walk around the street. We never went far, and we never walked in the heat of the summer. We walked in the morning or at dusk if we weren't afraid of getting killed by like a mountain lion or something. I live 72 miles from South Lake Tahoe. So we do have mountain lion and things like that. And I don't trust my dogs to save my life and I don't want them to get eaten. So yeah.
Yeah, I live in Miami and it's hot and it's humid. So I feel you. We don't do, and it's all year round. So we don't do middle of the day walks. Even at night, it's pretty hot and humid sometimes.
I believe
But
it.
So yeah, so I, like I said, I keep, and I've got one of those lemon juice bottles, I think, in my kitchen, in each of their rooms. And I typically take one in the car if I'm going to go for long car rides with them or like to the vet's office.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, and I mean, you can get that at any grocery store. And the biggest thing is don't panic. They feel your energy. So you need to, make sure that you know what you're going to do, have your kits ready, do, whether you're a professional or whether you're a pet parent, and, and just handle what you need to do without getting overly, like frantic, because then when you get frantic, they get frantic. I really believe that they feed off of our energy.
Yeah.
And the more stressed you are, the more stressed they will be. And at this point, you don't need them to be more stressed. So try to keep a cool head as much as you can.
Yeah. My dog was really, um, really knew I could help him. So when anything was wrong, he would literally walk up to me and like ask for help in the best way that he knew how. Like he would try to show me, explain it to me in any way, whether his body was just hurting or he ate something bad. He would like clue me in. He wasn't trying to be hiding anything. He was like, oh, like if he could hold up a sign, just say, hello, I need you right now.
Yep.
So yeah, it bummed me out because he passed without me there. And I know
Oh,
he was just probably waiting for me to save him. Yeah, because I had saved him a lot of times. He got in some trouble. So yeah, yeah, totally. Lori, who would bulldogs not be for?
I think bulldogs would not be for people who are never home, because they really like to be with their humans. So if you're someone who's just not at home, doesn't have time to spend with them, then I wouldn't recommend a bulldog breed for you. Um, they can be very good with children. I was just getting text messages today from a puppy parent that has a 1 year old, and she was really worried about that, new baby in the house and what's the dog going to do. And they've become the best of friends. So if you know what you're doing, that's always for me. Kids are hard because they're still a dog. So you just have to make sure that the child knows how to treat the dog and the dog knows, what they can and can't do. So I typically will, that's on a case by case basis when I deal with, a potential puppy buyer. Um, but definitely if you're someone who's at home, if you're someone who has, you also, if you're tight on money, don't get a bulldog, because like we discussed, you're either going to have to maintain them and feed them well and make sure that they're taken care of correctly, or you're going to spend money at the vet, which is always going to be more than if you just maintain them, because you're going to deal with surgeries and all kinds of crazy emergencies. But if you can't afford the vet care, if you can't afford the maintenance of feeding them correctly, then a bulldog is not for you.
Yeah,
They're
you'll need
not,
a GoFundMe for a bulldog.
yeah, and
Like
they're not like, if you're like someone who wants to just have like the trophy dog, like that's not what they're for. They really love their owners and they really feel connected to their humans, and they deserve somebody who feels that about them.
and
So
I think that was probably partially my dog's demise is he was a COVID dog. I got him during COVID. I never left the house. And then I started to do, I used to be a mobile unit and go to people's barns and houses. And I started to try to incorporate that again and board him. I couldn't leave him at home at all because he just got too anxious. He would be okay for like 4 hours alone, maybe 5, but 6 hours alone was kind of like, oh, now he's losing it. So
yeah. And
yeah,
there's ways, especially if you get them as a puppy, to train them or to socialize them in a way where they'll learn to like self-soothe, but they're very attached to their owners. And so if you bring them home, let's say you're a teacher and you bring them home right as the summer starts and you're home 24/7 all summer long, and then all of a sudden you take off, they're going to freak out. I tell my puppy parents, even if you're working from home, Put them in the crate. Let them see you at home, but they're in the crate, because then they start understanding that they can be separated from you, and it's not a bad thing. Like, it's not going to, it's not the end of the world. You're not disappearing. And then you kind of work around that, and they get more used to being in the crate, do fun things in the crate, feed them in the crate, so that they get a positive experience. And I think a lot of that helps, with, because they're not all going to have separation anxiety, but I think they're more prone to it just because of how bonded they are with their humans.
Yeah. I really think he thought he was my husband. And he cost the same
Right?
and was way more fun.
Yeah. Probably asked for less, complained less, and made less of us.
A monster cuddle bug. Put a
Yep.
smile on my face. I just had to give him warm blankets every night.
Yeah. Watched whatever you wanted on TV, right?
Yeah.
It was a
He
chick
never
flick.
controlled the remote. I fed him outside. It was good. I just sprayed the deck off.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Any other? Oh, so if I wanted another bulldog puppy, I've actually never had a puppy as a bulldog puppy. I don't know. My American bulldog was a puppy, but he came to me as a puppy damaged from a divorce case. So they had starved the bitch,
Poor
and
baby.
somebody confiscated the bitch and whooped out the puppies, and the majority of the puppies killed themselves eating socks and towels. They were born starving. Yeah.
Wow. Horrible.
Yeah, horrible. So I did have that puppy, and he looked just like an English bulldog puppy, and he was tiny. And I personally thought it was an English bulldog puppy, but he was an American bulldog puppy, because once we fed him right, he grew massive.
That happened to me with my first two. I went thinking it was an English. They were more of a scammer thing, but and he looked like an English, and then he started growing, and I'm like, he's growing kind of tall. And then the vet said, I think he's mixed English and American, because he wasn't as tall as an American, but he was way taller than an English, and he still had the screw tail. And he said, yeah, I think he was probably a mixed American, and he was the best dog I ever had. I'll be honest with you, but yeah, and he died of cancer. We had to put him down, but he was kibble fed. Um,
Yeah.
it is what it is. We didn't know
I
any like
I ha
we mentioned.
I have to say that I was really sad to do the necropsy, UC Davis, because they were his ophthalmology department, because he had that neurogenic KCS. Did the autopsy for free, and there was not 1 ounce of cancer in that dog. There was no pre-existing damage other than like some hip issues, genetic deformities, things like that. And the neurogenic KCS could have came from, so it was a damaged facial nerve, you guys, if you've never heard of it, and it affected his right eye. So he always had dry eye. He needed eye drops every 2 to 3 hours. It was just mismanaged, and he had one surgery. He had laser surgery. Right off the bat, the first 2 weeks that I had him, I went and got him laser surgery, because the previous owners didn't know he even had an eye issue. And I was like, what's up with his right eye? And they're like, what do you mean? It looks like he's blind. and they're like, he started biting all the other dogs. I'm like, that's probably why.
Yep.
And so yes, they can have lots of eye issues as a breed. They get the entropion, they get corneal ulcers,
Cherry eyes. Yep.
cherry eye, all of that stuff. So he had a damaged facial nerve, which caused a restricted congestion in his right nostril. Everything on his right side was a little distorted. It could have been genetic, but it also could have been sliding into the glass sliding window. I actually asked the owners, I'm like, did you guys roll the ball into the sliding glass window? And they're like, yep, we did it all the time. We thought it was funny to watch him plow his face into
Wow.
the sitting class window. Yeah. So
So some people, like I said, some people should have known Bulldog.
and people just don't know. So if we don't talk about it,
Yeah.
you guys don't do that to your dog. Like the chiropractic aspect of it, regardless of doing facial damage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah. And that dog was psycho when he was excited. So he had no filter for self-harm. I would do the
Dogs
same thing.
don't though. They can be pretty fearless to a certain extent. So I get it. Yeah. I can see a few of mine, just doing that. I've
So
got
how
one
do
that
we find a respectable breeder, Lori?
so definitely asking tons of questions. If they don't answer your questions or if they get annoyed at your questions, walk away. You want to see the puppies. You want to do things like FaceTiming, make sure that the puppies are in their home, in their, with them. They're not like a broker or a scammer or anything like that. And then ask them about how they raise their puppies. Maybe go through videos. Do they do things like ENS? I know that
What
my
is
dog,
the ENS?
ENS is oh my God, electrical neurological stimulation. I think electrical is it's some version of electrical. But it's basically between day 3 and 16, we take the puppies and they don't see or hear at that stage. So the only thing they can do is smell and feel, like touch. So
You
obviously, and
don't
taste.
hear?
They don't hear. Their ears are closed.
I
They're
had
literally
no idea.
sealed.
Oh
Yes,
my
they're
God.
sealed.
When do they
So
start hearing?
their ears probably open up, I want to say at about 2.5 weeks, their eyes will open first.
Okay.
So their eyes will open between 10 and 14 days, and then the ears will open, shortly thereafter. So those days are very critical for you to work on their neurological stimulation because that's all they can deal with. That's all they can have. So typically what we'll do is we'll hold the puppy straight up and down for 5 seconds, and then you bring them back. And then you hold them upside down and you give them like that blood rush for 5 seconds and then bring them back. And then you hold them up like on their backs and then you bring them back. And then you do like a tickle on the bottom of their feet. And then what I typically do is I get like a cool pack, like that you would put on like anywhere where you have an ache. And I just very quickly with a towel in between, put their bellies. So they feel that like
They
sensation
reflex.
all of a sudden,
Okay.
and then take it off. And you do that, and it's been found by studies that helps their immune system. It helps their brain. Like there's all these benefits to it because they're honing in on this sense that they have that at that point is the only thing they can really hone in on because they can't see and they can't hear.
Well,
Um,
and I think the fact that they're C-section puppies and they're
Yeah.
not getting that squish,
Right.
the birth canal, I think you're onto something. I think that's brilliant.
Well, I typically like the first probably 3 or 4 days, I will keep them in the incubator and with oxygen because they didn't have the squish that helps push all the liquids out of their lungs when they're in the birth canal. Because remember, when you're in the amniotic sac, that's going right through the lungs. There's all kinds of liquids inside. So that push, that squeeze gets all of that gunk out. And there's only so much you can do, with the little, squirts things. So I pump oxygen through to kind of help clear that out as much as I can for the first couple of
How do you pump oxygen through a puppy? Like, are you doing those little sinus?
No, I have them in an incubator. So I have an incubator, and between feedings, whenever mom's done, and usually I'll have to do something for work that I'm going to separate them. I will put them in the incubator and I'll put on the oxygen and I'll just let them breathe, nice clean air and start kind of getting all that gunk out. The other
So
thing
do
you can
you
do is
get
kind of
like a
tapping them.
medical grade oxygen tank?
I have an oxygen concentrator.
Okay.
So it takes water and it'll convert it into, and then it goes right in there. You can also, you do some nebulizing I don't typically do that unless they have a really bad, like they sound really bad, like real crackly chests and things like that. Then I might nebulize them a little bit with some saline. But you want to ask your breeders, what are you doing? How are you raising them? How are you socializing them? People assume that socializing means I'm going to like take them out to see people. That's not all the socializing that they need. They need to socialize with other dogs. They need to socialize with sounds.
Sounds. I
Are you
notice
putting,
a lot of the bulldogs are sound sensitive.
yeah, are you putting, I always have, I people laugh because I'm like, I have the TV on all day and I turn it off at night. And I've had a lot of puppy parents that say to me, you know, my bulldog was really good about sleeping at night. And I said, that's because I kind of put them on a schedule like you do a baby. And I started getting them into the routine that when the lights turn off and the TV's off, it's time to go to bed. Like, I don't want to hear you guys roughhousing. I don't want to hear barking. I don't like it's bedtime. And they get into that routine. They recognize, oh, it's daytime, nighttime, light, dark, and the noises. And I don't put cartoons. I put, I don't know, TNT where there's things bombing going off. And
Oh, you're not doing nature noises. You're not
no,
doing dog
I'm doing the
TV.
noises that they're going to
You're
live.
doing Die Hard.
Yeah, exactly. I also start taking them at about 3 weeks, and I'll take them in like a big hamper in the car, and I'll go get like a coffee, go through the drive-through, and I'll take them on a real short car ride just to start kind of getting them used to, okay, you're going to be in a moving vehicle. Like this is normal. And that also I find helps them once they do go, because most of my puppy parents don't live in Miami. Most of my puppy parents live in other states. I've had to go on road trips with puppies from Florida all the way up to Virginia.
Well, and do you fly them because they're brachy? I know a lot
You
of
can't fly
airlines.
them in cabin up until 20 pounds.
Okay.
Once they're past 20 pounds, you can't fly them anymore. So, but I like to drive mine when they're in the Carolinas because I take it as a little vacation. But I have a minivan and I'll put, they're used to already, they're going in the car. They can go, we drive hours and I put a patch of grass in there and I don't even have to worry about stopping and putting them on like grass,
That's been
like
sprayed
random
by
grass that who
Roundup
knows
and
what's
all
on
that.
there, right? So I litter train them on grass. So just ask your breeder, how do you litter train them? How are you doing any of these things like ENS, ESI? And by the way, it's early neurological stimulation. ESI has to do with scent introduction. So even though my dogs are not scent dogs, I mean, bulldogs will never be like, hounds, but I think it's important because it stimulates them, right? So when they can't see or hear, if you're putting a little bit of cinnamon and you see, okay, do they kind of like pull back or are they like, ooh, that smells kind of good? It's not because you want to keep a log because they're a hound dog and you're trying to teach them stuff. It's just to stimulate anything that can possibly be they use at that age.
My
And
bulldog would
ask
have been
about,
a scent dog if it was steak. Yeah.
yeah, that
So I
too.
see you have a puppy in your background.
I have 3, but I can
Can
grab
you
one.
please, can you please appease me? Can I get my puppy bulldog vibe on? Oh God, why did I ask you to do this?
You gonna show your face or you gonna be shy?
Who is this?
Show your face. Her name is Siri.
Hi
This is
Siri, look at you. What does a puppy bulldog cost?
She turned 8 weeks yesterday, and she's 4,000.
And is she already sold?
No, she's available.
Oh
She's the only one left. Yes, you are. You want to stay with me? I mean, you got 10, you got 11. Who cares?
yeah. At that point, you have a commune, a bulldog commune.
Yeah, right.
It's awesome. Look,
She
I love you.
and you, yeah, she does. She loves. Where are you going? Okay, you want a hug?
Oh my
Okay.
gosh. Be still my heart.
This is like puppy therapy is the best, I tell you.
It is. She's
She
so
could just stay here all
beautiful.
day while I work. The other one's crying. She's like, "What about me?"
Oh,
I was going to say something else and I just went blank. But yeah, a lot of those things are important. Like I said, socializing them, having them around other dogs, letting them, meet children as well as adults. You just don't want to expose them to too many people because, again, they're not, their immune systems aren't the same. That's another thing. Ask your breeders what they're doing for vaccinations, things like that. Some states, like in my state, you can't give a health certificate without a vaccination.
So what do you do? What is your puppy protocol? And
So
Francesca says she reminds me of Norma Jean, and I agree, Francesca. I agree.
what did she say?
She has a female fawn bulldog named
Oh.
Norma Jean that I adore. She was supposed to
So,
give me Norma Jean and then backed out of it, actually.
what I do is one of the things I do is I wait, which I think is very important because a lot of people will start giving, the vaccinations starting real early at like 4 weeks. I don't do that. I will wait until 8 or 9 weeks to give them their vaccine. I make sure I try to do some detoxing for them, whether it's rebalancer from Adored Beast or something. I do want to learn more about no-sodes because I know that that's like great for them too.
Yes.
But so I do something like that after the vaccines to help make sure that they're detoxing anything negative out of that. I won't sell them. Like I won't give the vaccine today and they go home tomorrow. I want to make sure.
Thank God. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some bad things that can happen in that, like
Yeah, I want to
72
make
hours.
sure reactions, avoiding, if they have any signs of any sickness, not, giving them the vaccines, spreading them out as much as you can. If you have to give more than one vaccine, don't do every week or every 2 weeks. Make sure you try to do 3 weeks and limiting the amount of vaccines. I've had vets that tell me, oh, they have to get 4 in the puppy. No, they don't. They don't need 4, especially if you start later, because what they're trying to do is catch the window where their immunity from their mom has dropped. So that's why they do it so many times because they don't know where it's going to hit. You can also do titer testing.
I was just gonna say, I know that bitch is probably vaccinated, so why wouldn't it transfer to the puppy? And I'm sure,
Exactly.
yeah, and they have natural immunity off the colostrum. Dr. Tobias just did a post or a reel on this, and I was like, yes, this is
Yep.
exactly how I feel. And Lori, you took my iridology intro class, and puppies before vaccines and after vaccines, their eyes look like old dogs. It's horrible. It makes you want to cry and vomit, and just we're hurting them. I
Yeah. And I
don't know if we're
avoid,
actually helping them.
yeah. And I avoid, and I tell my puppy parents, I mean, I'm very diplomatic. Like I try to encourage and support, but I tell my puppy parents, if you can, and when I say if you can, because I know certain areas in this, country are a little bit more susceptible to certain things, but avoid things like the lepto vaccine, the coronavirus vaccine, even the Bordetella. I've had so many vets tell me, but they're bulldogs. And I'm like, I don't care. Kennel cough,
Oh, homeopathy.
treated.
Homeopathy is amazing
Kennel
for the
cough
tongue.
can be treated. It's so treatable. And the Bordetella vaccine every 6 months, like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of those that you can just avoid. Try to get, if you have to do rabies, like in Florida, we get leaned on our property if we don't have our rabies certificate. Try to get, if you can, if they can qualify for, get your medical exemptions, get your titer test, get, the mercury free, do the detox protocols with Thuja and other things, when you're doing those kind of vaccines. So those are important. And ask your breeder, do they know about those protocols? Do they do any of that with their dogs? So those are important questions that I think people should ask.
Thank you for today. I think it was crazy informative. I'm going to throw this up on our YouTube channel, and hopefully it will attract or detract potential bulldog owners. Just say no if you don't have a trust fund.
You got it.
Just look at bulldog pictures and
Cute bulldogs, yeah.
get like t-shirts instead and things like that.
And or if you do find yourself wanting one and you're maybe not a trust fund, but you're not, too bad off. You're kind of somewhere in the middle. Then definitely you need to find a breeder that's breeding the dogs to the best, that they can be, and the best, not the most overdone and the most fat and the most, whatever, and the shortest, but ones that are breeding for health.
Excellent. Thank you for your time. Oh, I want that
Thank you for
puppy.
having me.
The puppy love. I can smell it from here. I can have that
I
puppy
know
smell.
there's nothing like a puppy breath.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I did. This was awesome. I learned about the lemon trick. That's so amazing. And Maggie, you're on the Facebook Live. Do you want to say anything? She's hanging out grooming dogs, probably. It's probably pretty late.
Yeah, right. It's 9 o'clock here. I'm not grooming.
You're in bed. You're like, we're just all cuddling at this point.
No, I actually have a pug who's barking at the TV right now because she wasn't properly socialized. I was cracking up. I'm like, you had some really great ideas. I wish I'd known
I know, those are
all
really
that time
good
ago.
ideas. All my dogs are good at night, but just the fact that playing like Die Hard for dogs,
Yeah.
I would have never thought of that ever. Who's
Right.
that? Are you gonna
This is
just ruin
Gerald.
me today?
He's leaving this weekend. This is Gerald.
Look at those
He's my
big
only boy
eyes.
in this litter.
Maggie, look at those eyes.
Say hi.
It's adorable.
Say hi.
I'm a dude dog person.
So am I.
I have not had a lot of female. I don't know. Have I ever? I've had one female dog in my whole life. And I've had dogs since I was like 5 years old. Um, I don't have a lot of female horses either. I have like two in my life.
Yeah, I'm a boy dog too. And the one female that I'm the closest with out of the ones that I have, she is like, if she was a woman, she'd be like a dude, like a guy's girl, like one of those that hangs out with the guys, doesn't like drama, just, let's watch football
Tomboy.
type of girl. That's her.
Yeah.
So she might as well have been a dude. So yeah, I'm with
No
you.
divas.
Right?
No divas, Francesca Forbes. Do you understand me? Okay, you guys have a great day. And we have animal iridology practice class next Monday. If you're not in the membership is free for the next couple months. Hop in and join us. We have some horse experts. We'll have, I think, Dr. Peter Tobias next month in November. And what else? We have a lot of exciting things coming up. Join us. Right on. HAI membership.vip to go through the portal to land in the group community. So, Lori, thank you for your time. And
Thank you for
I
having me.
love that dog's face. I hate that.
Isn't he
It
gorgeous?
hurts.
Isn't he gorgeous?
He is gorgeous. Your puppies are beautiful.
Thank you.
You should be so proud. They are works of art.
Thank you.
Oh,
He's a cutie.
have a great
Bye,
day, you
guys.
guys. Happy Wednesday.